who has been famous. A lot of you
very famous.
About Tavshilin. But what should I say? Not too much to say about him, besides that he's cousins with Marvin Moskowitz. Anyone who knows Marvin Moskowitz.
Wow.
Shivas of Marvin Moskowitz and Samadovi Howard. No introduction.
Wow.
But if you do need an introduction,
what
should I say?
Okay.
From Ayak Cholin.
Wow.
Hamoed Gomer.
Okay. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Welcome, everybody. First of all, everyone can make their way in. The first 1,000 people in the theater are going to get a Rabbi Kushner bobblehead. Nobody has to fight. Everyone, we hope there will be enough for everybody. If not, we will try to get it to you at a later date, so everyone can just make their way in calmly. Welcome to what I believe, I feel very confident, will be the single greatest comedy show you will hear today. Yes. Thank you. And now, by the way, I have some notes here, but a professional comedian doesn't need notes. Why do I keep notes here? Because there might be some young comedians out there, aspiring comedians who really have big dreams, and they want to be where I am right now. And they may be looking, they might say, but I can't do that. I can't memorize a whole set. And I want them to know it's okay. You can look at notes. I don't need them. But just so that other people know, they can look at them. Okay, so here we go. Let's get some crowd involvement, shall we? Some crowd involvement. Okay. By a show of hands, what year were you born? Oh? I said a show of hands. Okay, that's fine. That's good. We'll try another one. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your favorite color? Okay, let's simplify things. Let's go back to basics. Here we go. My name is Tavshilin. As you may, I know you're probably thinking now, oh, that's got to be like a stage name, and you're right. My actual name is Irving Tavshilin. And I am so glad I see my fans up in the crowd there have some caricatures of my character. By the way, if you do like the show, I might as well do this now in case you don't like what comes next. My book is out on Amazon. Feel free to go to Amazon and search Irv Tavshilin. I do have 4 copies here, limited edition, that you can get afterwards if you do like the show. Okay, so here goes. I'm at a little disadvantage, when it comes to, if you've ever been to a comedy show. So there's a couple of advantages your standard run-of-the-mill comedian has that I don't. Number one, if you go to a comedy show, there's a laugh track. They have a laugh track, and it just helps because obviously you hope the audience is laughing at your show, but there's also that laugh track that helps the audience along. Now, obviously, this is Pesach, everything's natural, organic, no laugh track here. This is natural. Any crowd noise you hear tonight is not being piped in. There's no laugh track. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I'm hoping that everybody's going to laugh. I'm not going to hold up a sign that says, please laugh. But those laugh tracks, they do come in handy, except they're always very obvious when it's a laugh track, because it's usually a maniacal laugh that sounds like if someone was possessed by the devil, and it comes at the most random times. It doesn't have to be when the comedian's saying a joke. He might be up there saying, oh, I woke up this morning, and then all of a sudden you're, that's usually what happens. It's that kind of laugh, and you'll hear it every 45 seconds or so throughout the show. So we have no laugh tracks here. That's number one. That's a little disadvantage we have, but it's okay. We're gonna push through. Number two, most comedians, when they come out, it's a standard thing. When a comedian gets out, he comes out and he plays to the crowd. Now, people like to hear their city shouted out. So when a comedian comes out into stage, it's always like the crowd is going crazy, much like they are right here now. They're just going crazy. Yeah. And the comedian always comes out and he says, I love you, Philadelphia! And then everyone goes, woo! And then in his ear, the guy's like, it's not Philadelphia, that was last night, we're in Omaha. And he'll be like, I love you, Omaha! Right? And everybody goes crazy. Now here's the disadvantage here. How many of you, well, thank you, I appreciate that. How many of you were born, raised, or otherwise live in Aurora, Ohio? Not so many? Not so many. By a show of hands? No? I can count on one finger? No, I can't even do that. Okay, so nobody here's from Aurora, so I could come out theoretically and start my show by going, I love you, Aurora! It's not going to mean anything to you because none of you are from Aurora, but you know what? We're going to try it anyways. Ready? I love you, Aurora! Woo! We are all Aurora Borealises. How do you say someone is from Aurora? We are all Aurorians, I guess so. Okay. So let's get started, shall we? Yeah. Let's get that laugh track, that maniacal laugh. Okay. Now, how many of you grew up in Cleveland? I'm sure a lot of you grew up in Cleveland. Yes. Okay. Now, if you grew up in Cleveland, I'm going to tell you a fun fact here about Aurora, Ohio. If you grew up in Cleveland and you're over the age of 40, you no doubt know this fun fact. But if you did not grow up here or you're under the age of 40, you may not know this. But Aurora, Ohio was inexplicably the home to, for many years, to SeaWorld. Very good, very good. Now, whoever thought of putting a SeaWorld in Aurora, Ohio was fired immediately. But here's the thing. I grew up loving SeaWorld. We went all the time. It was my favorite place to go. There were 4 SeaWorlds in the United States. San Diego, California. That makes sense. San Antonio, Texas. That makes sense. Orlando, Florida. That makes sense. And Cleveland, Ohio. Or more accurately, Aurora, Ohio. I don't know how that happened. Now, I'm not here to dump on Cleveland, or more accurately, Aurora. I love Cleveland. I grew up here. I tell over the famous Yakov Smirnoff line, the famous comedian who said, every country has a city they make fun of. In America, it's Cleveland. In Russia, it's Cleveland. I love Cleveland. So I'm not here to dump on Cleveland. I'm not here to knock Aurora. But it never really made any sense that SeaWorld was here in Aurora. And we did enjoy it for many, many years until finally they wisened up and they got rid of it. And unfortunately, there is no more SeaWorld. But Aurora was home to one of the greatest things about Ohio, which was SeaWorld. Now, very often you'd hear from people like animal rights activists, and they would say, you can't do this to the poor sea animals. You can't keep this there. They can't be in captivity. They need to be out in the open ocean. Yes, maybe that's true. But I think more accurately, you couldn't keep those whales, those big, beautiful killer whales, in Cleveland. Okay, I would come to SeaWorld, and I'm telling you, you look at Shamu, and he had this look on his face. My cousins are in San Diego. My whole graduating class is in Orlando. And I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. You may have not gone outside because you're here in this beautiful program in the hotel. I was in Cleveland Heights for the first days. The high yesterday was 83. Today was 42. That's a 41-degree difference. You don't make a SeaWorld in Cleveland. It never made any sense, but I'm not complaining. I'm just stating a little historical nugget for you. There was a SeaWorld here. It made no sense, and now it's gone. Can we move on? Okay. Okay, here we go. Again, this is for the sake of everyone else. By the way, Shamu, I know I don't know if anyone knows what Shamu means. Anyone know what the word Shamu means? What? Right, it was a killer whale, but do you know what the word Shamu means? Okay, neither do I. But that was the killer whale's always name was Shamu. There was Shamu, Mamu, Shampoo. I was just thrown out there. I was hoping maybe somebody knew. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so like this. So while Shamu has moved on to a warmer climate, we are here in Aurora, Ohio. That's what's most important. We are here right now. And, I've been touring the country doing stand-up comedy now for like 5 minutes. And I will say, you guys are, I feel like I can say this pretty confidently, you guys are the best crowd I have ever performed in front of. Yeah. People, this is true. People come up to me all the time and they say, Irv, do people really come up to you all the time? And then they say, well, how do you like being a stand-up comedian? And I say, it's hard. It's not easy to get up there in front of a crowd. You hope they find it funny and you have to memorize all this material. It's not easy. It's difficult, but at least the pay stinks. And that's really what matters, It doesn't, you have to look at the whole picture. But here's the good news. I don't need the money, and I'll tell you why. Pesach doesn't cost any money, right? We know that, right? Okay, it does. It costs a few shekels, but it pays to have friends in high places. Let me tell you a true story. If it would not have happened to me, I wouldn't have believed it myself, but this is absolutely true. Anyone familiar with Cash App? Yeah. Cash App, it's a digital wallet. People use it to pay and get paid. It's one of these, services that you find like Venmo and other things. So Cash App, I use Cash App all the time. Now Cash App, it's almost as if they knew instinctively that we have Pesach coming up. I get an email last week, true story from Cash App, completely unsolicited, and it says, Moshe. Now, okay, let me backtrack. My name, my Tavshilin is what many people know me as, at least in my immediate family. My real name is Moshe. Now, in the non-Jewish world, for some reason, if you show them that your name is M-O-S-H-E, there's a 50-50 chance it should be Moshe, but they will always assume it's pronounced Moshe. So I'm going to assume this email called me Moshe, and it said in all caps, Moshe, good news. You can now instantly borrow up to $25. Instantly borrow up to $25. Now, you're probably thinking, what, $2,500, $25,000, $20? No, $25, but instantly. And then here's the kicker. It gets better. It said, and you can pay it back over time. Now talk about a true Dayenu story. I mean, this is, Pesach is a time of miracles. I mean, if they would have just told me that I could borrow, I don't know, a small amount, let's say $5, $10, I would have been ecstatic. But they said, but that, I would have said Dayenu. But what they do, they said you could borrow $25. And not only that, but instantly. And Dayenu, I would have said Dayenu, but not only that, they said, I can pay it back over time. Now, if they would have just told me, you know what, Moshe, you got to pay it back right after Pesach, I would have said, okay, you know what, it's very helpful. $25 can go a long way. That's like one spelt matzah. But you know what? I would have been very happy to get $25 and been able to pay it back after Pesach. And instead, they offered me to pay it back over time. And I was like, wow. Talk about a gift from Hashem. I think we Dayenu. Okay, let's leave the singing to the professionals like Ari Lesser. I'm sorry, Ari. That's not my department. You're much better at that than I am. But anyways, this was an incredible story that happened to me. Now this morning, this is also true. This morning I got an email from Cash App, and this is where my procrastination comes in because unfortunately I was very sad to see the email that said, Moshe, hurry, your offer to borrow up to $25 expires soon. I was crestfallen. I mean, I love that word crestfallen, but I wasn't happy that I lost on my, and I didn't lose my opportunity, but I'm not one to jump into these great, fantastic financial, I know it sounds too good to be true, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to let this one go. I didn't, so I didn't capitalize on it. I mean, but that is an incredible story. How do you like them matzo balls? I mean, that's pretty cool. Now, lest you think that I'm in a financial pickle, I am not, because very recently I had another true story. If anyone is familiar with unclaimed funds, anybody familiar with unclaimed funds? There you go. So every state has what they call unclaimed funds. It's basically the government's way of looking out for people that there might be missed payments. There might be things that either you're owed by the government or by private entities. There's money floating out there that is unclaimed, and you can go in your state and search your name, and it will pop up. It'll tell you if there's any unclaimed funds that may belong to you, and then you have to fill out the paperwork, and you can become instantly super wealthy. Well, anyways, good news for the Jews. I got an email. My sister-in-law sent me a thing a few weeks back, and she said she was on Ohio unclaimed funds, and it said that I have my name, Moshe Kovel, came up that I have unclaimed funds, and I said, okay, cool, let me check it out. So I start typing in my information, and it says that I am owed money by none other than Google. Google's not a small little mom and pop company, so right away the wheels start turning in my head. Google, okay. I mean, listen, Google is worth $2 trillion. I pulled out my calculator and I said, even if they owe me only 1% of that, that's $20 billion. That's not bad. That's about $20,500,000 more than I have right now. Okay, so that would have been like, I was like, wow. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I sat down, I said Nishmas, and I said, oh my gosh, Hashem, thank you. And in my mind, I stopped what I was doing because I had been in the middle of filling out this whole thing. Once I realized it was Google, I started rehearsing the speech I'm going to have with my family, and I was going to sit down with my kids and say, look, we are never changing our lifestyle. We're not turning down. There's going to be people collecting at our door 24/6, and we're not going to turn them away. We're not changing who we are. We're not just going to be like, oh, because all of a sudden we have $20 billion. No! We're going to be the same regular people. And I rehearsed the speech, and I said that Nishmas and Hallel and all that good stuff, and I continued to fill out the paperwork, and I clicked submit, and Chazdi Hashem, I am proud to tell you that Google somehow owed me 1 cent. Yes. If any of you own stock in Google, I apologize because they took a hit. Actually, I'm still waiting for the check from Google. Apparently, if it's under $1, you have to go through some whatever. So whatever. I don't think I'm going to claim it from Google. But the point is that Yeshua Hashem Karef Ayin, you can get, salvation can come from anywhere. And thank God, even though Pesach can be expensive, not here it's super affordable, but Pesach can be expensive, but it may be from Cash App. Hashem has many ways to send it to you. It may be from Google Payments. But you know what? I'm a very lucky man. I'm very happy. And that's all. I think it's time. I haven't thrown in a laugh track in a little bit. Okay, so, okay, here we go. Now, this windfall from Google would go a long way if I were to proceed and collect my 1 cent from Google. It would go a long way towards helping pay for the toothbrushes, which we buy every year for Pesach. Now, I don't know how many of you are like me, okay? We have a family. We have 7 individuals in our household. This is not, there we go, there's number 2 right there. Yeah, so we have 7 individuals in our household. We're not running, this is not the Ohio State University college dorm, okay? But somehow, there's on average on any given day, especially after Pesach when everyone buys new toothbrushes, there's an average of about 7,200 toothbrushes in each bathroom. I don't know how this happens. We buy a couple of packages so everyone can tell there's a part, and somehow we end up with thousands and thousands of toothbrushes. I don't know. I don't have a scientific explanation for how this happens. But after Pesach, and especially when your kids are little and they're not really using them anyway, I will say a number of years back, one of my children, who I will not name for purposes of this discussion, he came down right after Havdalah on Motzei Pesach and said, Todd, thank you so much for buying. He had an unopened package, a toothbrush in a package. He said, thank you so much for buying us new toothbrushes. I said, I bought them before Pesach. He's like, I didn't know. I said, but what were you using over Pesach? He said, I didn't know you can brush your teeth on Pesach. I said, oh yeah, you could actually. I mean, you have to have a new toothbrush, new toothbrush, new toothpaste, but yes, you could. And he said, it's okay. I brushed after Purim. I said, okay, wonderful. He didn't say which Purim. We're assuming it was the Purim immediately prior. But Baruch Hashem, with all this money from Cash App and Google, I was able to pay for all those toothbrushes. So that is really, really exciting. Now, who's having a great time? Are we enjoying this here? Yeah. I think we're having a great time. You know what? Waiting to take an intermission. Should we take a little break here? Maybe stretch this out? No, keep going. Okay. I want to say, I came here, we had dinner here, and the food was absolutely delicious. It was really, really good. Thank you to Rabbi and Mrs. Kushner and everyone else here. It was an incredible supper. And if this is what the food was like all Yom Tov, now I'm kind of kicking myself that we weren't here the whole Yom Tov. But the food was really incredible. Now, people are always worried what they're going to eat on Pesach because everybody's got different minhagim, and everyone has different things, what they could eat, what they can't eat. I will say, when I got married, the first Pesach we were married, my wife was horrified. She comes from a family where they eat nothing on Pesach. Whatever they do eat, they peel their water. They don't eat anything on Pesach. Now, in my family, we pretty much ate everything but custard donuts. We had ketchup and potato chips. My in-laws' family, there's nothing. No store-bought, nothing like that. So when my wife came the first Pesach, she's like, oh my gosh, this is like I married into a Gentile family. And that was a challenge. So people are always worried about what they can eat on Pesach because everyone's got, everyone has different minhagim. But you know what? Nobody goes hungry. And primarily because we have this phenomena called Pesach cakes. Now, I want to tell you something. A few months back, true story, I was in my basement rummaging through my freezer. Every once in a while, I do a little quality control check. If I'm down in the basement, kind of rummage through the freezer, make sure everything's working properly. And I came across a pan that said chocolate chip cookies. And I was like, score. And I pulled out the chocolate chip cookies, and as soon as I opened the package, as soon as I opened the pan, I realized these weren't Hamoed chocolate chip cookies. They were from last Pesach. And my heart sank. I cried a little bit. A little tear formed on the edge of my eye, because I'll tell you, there's something remarkable when it comes to Pesach cakes. They are delicious during Pesach. I mean, they've gotten better over the years. There's been real improvements in the quality of brownies and chocolate chip squares and cookies. And in case my wife is here in the audience, they are amazing. I love them. They're fantastic. My daughters do an amazing job. They are delicious. But there is a heavenly assistance, divine assistance, siyata d'shmaya, which happens that on Pesach, you can eat these things to your heart's content. The moment you make Havdalah, they're like an esrog after Sukkot. You just don't want any part of it. You feel like you look at that pan of Pesach cake and you say, you know what, I think I'm going to run to Home Depot and grab a bag of topsoil and a can of paint thinner. And that just seems more appealing to you. I don't know why. This is nothing. I'm not speaking negative about the Pesach cake. It's a fact. It's something that happens to Pesach cakes immediately after Pesach. But on Pesach, they are delicious. Baruch Hashem. So we do have that. Now, I don't know exactly, like I said, I don't know how this works. The Kabbalistic, there must be something deep and mystical about how this works, about why the Pesach cakes have this allure on Pesach and then immediately lose their value. But you know what I do really, really love about Pesach? The family time. Now, what I mean by that is obviously the family gets together and we have so much time we spend together by the Starim. Now, if any of you have daughters that are in seminary or have been to seminary, you will notice there's an interesting phenomena the last number of years, is that the seminaries have decided that we don't spend quite enough family time, and therefore they decided that your daughters, even though you spent roughly half the gross domestic product of Guatemala to send your daughter to seminary, they decided that she really should be home for Pesach. This has nothing to do with financial considerations, but she really should be home with the family. And this is a new phenomena. So you'll find if you send your daughter to seminary and you've mortgaged, maybe sold another kid or two, and then all of a sudden you get your daughter through seminary, and then you find out, well, they want her to come home because that's what's in the best interest. And you know what? I appreciate that. It's quality, it's family time. And I know that if things keep up, I have another daughter, Mirza Shem, was going to seminary in a couple of years. And I'm so sure of this that I actually wrote this down, because I know that in 2 years I'm going to look back. This is a real letter that I am going to get in 2 years when my daughter applies to seminary. I wrote it down just so I can look back and say, ha! I don't know why I want to say ha, but I want to say ha, so I will. So anyways, here's this letter that I know I'm going to get from my daughter's seminary. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Tavshilin, we are very excited to welcome Blimi to Benos Pitzuchim V'Garinim for the upcoming school year. As you know, over the last number of years, every seminary has decided that it's quite beneficial for the girls to go home for Pesach. This has nothing to do with any potential financial benefit to the seminary, obviously. And it's all about what's best for our precious Benos Yisrael, obviously. To this end, we have come to the conclusion that it's best for the girls to be home for Sukkot as well. And rather than have them travel back and forth, which could cause disruptions to their learning, we are asking all girls to go home before Sukkot, remain at home through the winter months and Pesach, and we very much look forward to welcoming them all back, refreshed and ready to go right before Shavuos. We hope that you will see the benefit to this as well. P.S. I'm telling you, this is coming. You're going to look at me and say, wow, you're a Navi, you're a prophet. No, I deal in reality. This is coming. I will frame this. You can take a look. Anyway, P.S. We realize the cost of tuition feels like we're taking an arm and a leg, but we ask that you keep in mind that you do have 2 arms and 2 legs. Anyway, the remaining $850,000 of your down payment is due tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock p.m. Wishing you only nachas from your precious daughter, Hamoed Shana, or until you're able to pay off the seminary bill in full, whichever comes first. Sincerely, Rabbi, drain your bank account, Steve. Okay, this is the letter. I'm telling you right now, this is the letter that's coming. I am not a prophet, but I speak the truth. Okay, anyways, now, by the way, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. This is Pesach. We're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to be enjoying. I didn't mean to like scare you. Oh my gosh. They don't make you pay that $850,000 by 2 o'clock p.m. You have like 48 hours. So I'm not like, this, I don't mean to scare you like that. And if I really did want to scare you, I was thinking, I'm sure you had some like arts and crafts here like today or something. There's got to be some sort of projects people have. I mean, maybe for a certain age. But, usually on a Pesach program, there's some type of arts and crafts. And if I really wanted to scare you, I could have brought a Pesach project here with googly eyes. Now, I submit to you that there is nothing more scary in the world than googly eyes. Now, I am just speaking from personal experience because many times in my youth, I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was dark. And it was probably like 9:30 at night. And I opened my eyes to see my brother's pine cone man with those 2 googly eyes staring at me on the night table as if to say, try falling back asleep now, my little Irving. And I couldn't. And I was traumatized. And that's real. That's something that I'm facing it now, and I feel comfortable facing it here with you all because I figured maybe you've seen googly eyes over Yom Tov, and that's why I'm bringing it up here. It didn't help that my 3rd grade teacher, she was fantastic, by the way, but she decided it was a good idea to put googly eyes on the stapler in the classroom. So you cannot imagine the guilt I live with, knowing that in 1984, I probably spent, I don't know, maybe 9,000 times that year banging that little guy over the head, in the classroom stapler. So googly eyes, in my opinion, are terrible. They're very scary. However, if we're at a point here where I'm talking about googly eyes, it's probably time for me to wrap this up. So, I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for coming. Like I said, if you want to buy my book, we have some copies here. Otherwise, go on Amazon. I will tell you, if you buy my book, it will enhance your Simchas Yom Tov. If you buy 100 copies of my book, it will enhance my Simchas Yom Tov. So keep that in mind. Thank you all for listening, and I love you all. Thank you. Okay, Scott. How was it?
Very good.
Yeah? How many minutes was it, Ben?